you heard me being introduced before, and you thought the person coming on stage, picking up the chair and carrying it off was Ken Quinn. And you thought, whoa, President Emeritus, now he's back to moving the furniture. But it's me, I'm Ken Quinn, and if you're here this morning, you know I came out with a shovel, worked pretty good, so I got another prop with me, and my friends at the United Soybean Board and American Soybean Association and WISH for World Initiative in Soy and Human Health, all work in Cambodia. And if you were here at noon, you saw the young Cambodian man who's building there. And I wanted to wear this because when I was ambassador in Cambodia, landmines were the central element of post-conflict society, even though conflict was still on. And there were more landmines around Cambodia than probably any other country on the face of the earth. And there were seemingly more people, amputees, with crutches, trying to move around, who had been affected by landmines placed by the genocidal Khmer Rouge. And I went to the Prime Minister and talked with him about how do we get rid of the Khmer Rouge and at the same time make the country more safe for its population that had already suffered 2 million deaths out of a population of 7 million. And demining was a central element. And organizations like the Mine Advisory Group were there doing this work. And I was going out with the deminers. You're going to meet some deminers from Vietnam, young women who were there. Heidi Kühn and Gary Kühn and I saw them when we were in Vietnam in 2020 in Quang Tri here to show you what they do. But I, as the American ambassador, I was out with the deminer as they're digging down, trying to find the mines, touch them with a trowel, and then blow them up. And so I had similar experience as a brand new Foreign Service officer, and Deputy Assistant Secretary Rachel Schiller here. And I was telling her before about my first assignment wasn't to Vienna or Paris, as I was hoping, but out in the countryside in Vietnam, where you learn one central rule, that as you walk through the jungle, you watch the person in front of you, and you watch where they stepped, and you stepped in exactly that same place to avoid mines, to avoid your leg being blown off. So Jamie Franklin's here with the Mine Advisory Group later to tell you what they're doing, demonstrating that I'm so proud that the State Department is part of this. I'm so proud of Gary Kühn and his leadership, and now as president of Spice Company, and Heidi Kühn, of course, our laureate, all endeavoring to rid the world of these killer landmines that I've seen up close so personally. And so I just wanted to be here to introduce them so that you know that what they do, what they support, what they are causing to happen is one of the most important and noble things possible. So I'm going to turn it over to the panel to let them tell you what they've been up to and what they're going to be up to. And then I'm going to bring the deminers out. There are no real live mines, don't worry. And I'm going to show you what's involved. It'll be unforgettable, as I hope you see my Cambodian scarf is on this. And it will be a first at the World Food Prize, but hopefully not the last. Over to you all.
Thank you. Thank you, and let me just start by Ambassador Quinn saying thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for truly a lifetime of inspiring leadership, both at the State Department as well as at the World Food Prize Foundation. And I'd like to say thank you to Jamie for having me here today. It's truly a pleasure to have the opportunity to highlight the important work that the State Department is supporting in Vietnam, as well as globally, to clear the explosive hazards of war and promote peace, prosperity, and security. And to Gary, I just want to say congratulations to you, Heidi, and the whole Roots of Peace team on a very well-deserved recognition of the World Food Prize. The Roots of Peace's commitment to promoting agricultural security is a key component of successful post-conflict recovery in so many countries around the world. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm particularly glad to have the chance to highlight the support provided by the Department of State in coordination with host nation partners and implementing organizations like MAG. I want to thank our colleagues who came from Vietnam to demonstrate the difficult and dangerous work they undertake every day. We're grateful you could be here, and we're proud to work with your teams in Vietnam. Our cooperation with Vietnam on finding and clearing landmines, bombs, and unexploded ordnance has been foundational to our partnership and has been critical to achieving the historic upgrade in our bilateral partnership to what is now a comprehensive strategic partnership. We've provided more than $190 million to find and remove explosive hazards left over from the Vietnam War, including $25 million that President Biden announced on his visit to Hanoi last month. This is a historic amount of funding and underscores the commitment we have to address the war legacies. Food security is a top priority for the government of Vietnam, and we're proud that our two leaders acknowledged the Red River, a major food source for Vietnam, when they gave their joint statement last month. This work is critical in post-conflict environments, even decades after war has ended. Put simply, communities can't farm land contaminated by landmines. The State Department is proud to fund the work MAG does, which in turn allows organizations like Roots of Peace to further develop land and promote growth in communities. I look forward to hearing more about your life-saving work at MAG in partnership with Roots of Peace, and I thank you for the opportunity to join this esteemed panel. Over to you, Jamie. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Assistant Secretary Schiller. And it was actually funding from the Department of State's Office of Weapons Removal and Abatement that enabled us to clear the land in support of Roots of Peace agricultural development work in Vietnam that we're here talking about today. So, a bit about MAG. MAG is a humanitarian development and peace-building organization that limits the causes and addresses the consequences, both immediate and long-term, of conflict and armed violence. We currently work in over 30 countries to save lives, ease suffering, and protect human rights and contribute to sustainable peace for the hundreds of millions of people affected. We foster stable and secure societies and are a key enabler of progress towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Our model is to hire and train from within the affected communities and to grow and develop experienced national capacities. Over 95% of MAG's global workforce are nationals of the countries where we work. Landmines are designed and used to deny people access to land and to force people off of the land. They are usually buried beneath the ground, invisible to the naked eye, and are victim activated, either by stepping on the mine or being in proximity to the mine. Unexploded ordnance, or UXO for short, are ordnance, so projectiles, mortars, rockets, bombs, etc., that have been fired, but they fail to detonate as designed. They lay on or in the ground and remain live and potentially unstable. Disturbance or an unlucky blow from a farmer's hoe can be sufficient to detonate the explosive charge. Landmines and UXO are a critical cross-sectoral issue in all post-conflict countries. Land cannot be used or developed safely until it has been cleared of landmines and UXO. In many post-conflict countries, Communities living on or near landmine and UXO contaminated land are among the most marginalized and food insecure. Turning unused contaminated land into thriving agricultural land achieves considerable development outcomes, far more than simply increasing the yield of existing agricultural land, and contributes to achieving Sustainable Development Goal number 2, zero hunger. The conflict in Ukraine has brought global attention to the impact of conflict, landmines, and UXO on agriculture and food security, as has been mentioned numerous times throughout the last 2 days here in Des Moines. The latest figures suggest that an area of Ukraine 20% larger than the state of Iowa is already unusable due to the fear of landmine and UXO contamination. Ukraine will need significant and sustained support to clear landmines and UXO, rebuild the agricultural sector, and increase agricultural production. However, sadly, Ukraine is not unique in this regard. The damaging effects of conflict do not end when the guns fall silent. Landmines and UXO left behind after conflict continue to threaten lives and livelihoods, impede access to vital land and natural resources, and limit agriculture and food security opportunities. Lebanon. 33 years after the civil war ended and 17 years after the last conflict, landmines and UXO continue to deny safe access to land. These devices continue to function and threaten life and limb, leaving farmers unable to access vital land and once thriving orchards and olive groves. Vietnam. More than 50 years after the last bombs were dropped, the country remains contaminated and impacted by UXO, denying or limiting access to land and leaving families with a difficult choice. Face the risk of going hungry or risk farming land known to be contaminated. Where UXO contaminated land is farmed at risk, the UXO prevent mechanization and other practices that could increase crop yields, as this would also increase the risk of an accident. We will be hearing more on our work in Vietnam and seeing a UXO clearance demonstration from my Vietnamese colleagues Mai Chi, Van, and Kieu immediately following this panel discussion. This work is vital and sadly is needed more today than ever before, but we can't do it alone. It takes partnership to meet the needs of affected communities, our donors, like the State Department, and our implementing partners like Roots of Peace, who work with farmers to realize the full potential of the land that we clear, maximizing the development outcomes of our collective work and turning once unsafe, unused land into booming farms. I'm now going to hand over to Gary to discuss the work of Roots of Peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And thank you all for giving up your cocktail hour and staying here with us. Appreciate that. Once the mine clearance is done, then Roots of Peace comes in and works with the farmers to rebuild hope. In these battle zones, hope is a scarce commodity, and working with the farmers is not like working with the normal farmer to establish a new farm. We have to really focus on what we could do to help them not only recover, but improve. So Roots of Peace started out our mine clearance activity in Croatia, in some orchards in Bibinje, Čestmalia, Čestavelika, and we cleared the mines from multiple villages, and then we came back to see, hoping to see smiling farmers and and kids running around, happy situation, and it came back and the fields were exactly the same as where they were before they were mine cleared. And we were a bit taken aback, and we realized it's more to just clearing the mines out of the ground. We had found that the irrigation canals had been just wrecked upstream, the water was not coming, the villages were destroyed, trees were destroyed. So it's not easy, recovery is not automatic. The true impact of the mine clearance comes when the people come back and restore their community. So we decided at that point to lock in the impact that we seeked, that add in the replant component. So in Vietnam, you saw pictures going through there, clearing the mines, and then those were black pepper being grown on natural trees there. We did that, and that replanting happened immediately after the mine clearance was done. And also, I should say, as we're going through here, these are slides from Afghanistan. I decided to mix it up a bit, and this is the entire supply chain for fruits and nuts in Afghanistan, which grows crops very similar to California. So you're seeing kind of the replanting process that we go through. So really, when we get out there, we work with the farmers, we help them understand what are the options, we get them engaged, and we get them to understand what the future could hold for them. And it really is all about hope. It seems very trite, but it was very, very true to get them motivated to rebuild their homes. In a lot of the conflict zones we operate in, the conflict happened over decades, and there's a lot of times they're not any longer living there, so just they're coming back. And when we started in Somalia, there were families living outside their home. They have walls around their homes in a little lean-to tent, and it was springtime, and they had just barely made it through winter. They were eating grass, and the clearance was happening in their vineyards, and this farmer would go over, and each time they had cleared a row of vines, the farmer was there to try and recover his vine, prune his vine, get it ready for that year. The vine somehow survived 20 years of war. So it's a process that we go through, and we take them all the way from the beginning to the end. You see now the trees that we had planted mature, and then we get them ready for the markets, get them so that they could compete in international markets, not just serve the local domestic market, go to markets where the price of the product is 4 to 5 times higher than what they have. We do a lot of intercropping. I've got a wheat picture here. Wheat, almost all of our farms have intercropping. They have 2 crops going on. This is an apricot orchard in Jalalabad. This guy's our poster child. He used to work for us, and then he said, I'm making too much money in my farm, I gotta quit. So he's a wonderful guy. But we work with them all the way through. So Roots Peace has been working in Afghanistan for 20 years. So it's kind of a rare situation we're able to do this, patching together programs to build nurseries, then replicate the trees, propagate the trees, plant them, and then we've planted 7 million fruit trees over the last 10 years. Afghanistan is blessed with lots of natural fruits. They have 68 varieties of grapes and 30 varieties of pomegranate. This is really a very intensive fruit area. So that is their jewel, is getting the fruits to the markets. So, but they didn't have the knowledge of planting. They've been growing grapes there for 1,000 years, but here we are, they're teaching them how to grow grapes. War takes away lots of people in these areas, and they've lost a generation of farmers. So we have to retrain the farmers, but then we also bring them up to currency as far as new technologies. The farmers, the apples, they have to grade the apples, grade the cherries, so that when they get to the markets, which are much more demanding than the Afghan market, they've got things sorted and they look good and they get the top price. Afghan products actually get 30% premium over all the other products in the markets. We've done this, we've got USAID here. We've had support from Department of Defense, USDA, World Bank, Asia Development Bank. I'm gonna forget somebody here. And they've understood the strategy. We established this, what we thought was a time long enough, 15-year strategy, and we executed the strategy throughout. Then we get the products all the way to market. There was no cold store, and there's no cold chain in Afghanistan. We built a pack house. We've somehow got refrigerated containers up to Afghanistan, and then took them to markets either on the road or by air. So in a lot of cases, we had to do things much more than we thought just to get the farmers going, but in order to build that entire supply chain out. So the impact is the higher prices come back for the farmer. If we just planted plants, harvested the plants, and they all came to the local domestic market, they would have crushed the prices. So we've basically built in new markets as we add in new farmers. We continue to add new farmers there. The mine clearance for the high priority and the medium priority mine fields have been removed. So Afghanistan was once the most heavily mined place in the world, and it's now in a situation where they're only working on the lower priority mine fields that are typically up on ridges and hills and mountains. So Afghanistan has been a wonderful success story as far as mine clearance. There's negative news about the Taliban taking over, but at the agricultural level, we won. At the farmer level, we won. The farmers don't really care who's in Kabul. They continue to execute their farming, and they are thriving in the areas that we operate. So pairing the two together really works. And if any of you had a chance to pick up the black pepper at our booth out there, that black pepper came from a minefield, most likely. It came from Quang Tri, Vietnam, which was just south of the DMZ, where fighting was extensive. Almost every farm in Quang Tri province has UXO in it. It was massive bombing happened there. So if you pick up a little explosive black pepper out there, and I hope you all have a great evening. I'm going to hand it back over now to Jamie, and Jamie's going to bring up our mine clearance team.
Great. Thank you, Gary. So excuse us while we transition slightly. So thank you, Deputy Assistant Secretary Schiller. Thank you, Gary. And thank you all for being here in this sort of 5 to 6 p.m. slot in the day. I know it's been a long day. It's a fantastic turnout, really appreciated. So I'd like to now introduce you, and I'll be joined on stage by my colleagues from Vietnam. So we have Hoang Mai Chi, Tran Lai Ven, and Dinh Kieu. They will introduce themselves and then provide a demonstration of unexploded ordnance clearance in Vietnam.
Thanks, Jamie. My name is Hoang Mai Chi. I am the Community Liaison Manager of Mines Advisory Group in Vietnam. I have been with MAG for 16 years. Many friends of mine find it so strange that I can stay with an organization for so long. I have so many reasons why I still want to continue with MAG. One of the reasons is that my grandpa and my uncle were killed during the war because of the bombs. When I was small, anytime someone mentioned about the war, I saw the tear keep running off from my grandma's eyes. At that time, I was so small to understand about the loss that my father and his family has to suffer from the explosive ordnance. Recently, since I joined MAG and I become a member of the community liaison team, I witnessed an accident happen to 2 children in the community. One is at 4 and the other at 8 years old. They brought home a cluster munition and they opened it because of curiosity. They both were killed in front of their parents' eyes. We were at the community, so we went to the house just 30 minutes after the accident. The scene was so tragical that I will never forget in my whole life. My teams and I work closely with the community so that we can understand more about their needs and their difficulties, and so we can support them better. We hope that we can be able to organize more re-education sessions. We identified and clear more lands so we can reduce the number of accidents caused by the remnants of the war and bring the more safe land to the communities. Joining the event today, there are also my colleagues from Vietnam. They will share their stories in Vietnamese, and I will be their translator. Vân, please.
Xin kính chào quý vị. Tôi xin giới thiệu, tôi là Trần Thị Lý Vân, đội trưởng đội rà phá bom mìn của MAC Quảng Trị, Việt Nam. Tôi tham gia vào tổ chức MAC được 10 năm và tôi có gia đình và có một đứa con nhỏ 12 tuổi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tran Lý Vân. I am the team leader of a demining team in MAC Quảng Trị, Vietnam. I have been with MAC for 10 years. I got married and have a son at 12 years old.
Quảng Trị, nơi tôi sinh ra và lớn lên, chịu rất nhiều sự đau thương mất mát do chiến tranh để lại. Và nhiều người thân của tôi và bạn bè tôi cũng đã bị thương và bị chết do bom mìn còn sót lại. Trong đó có cô của tôi.
Quảng Trị, where I was born, has to suffer a lot from the remnants of the war. Many relatives and friends of mine have been killed and injured because of the unexploded ordnance. One of them is my aunt.
Cô tôi cùng với nhiều người dân khác cùng tình nguyện để tham gia vào cái việc tìm kiếm và xử lý những loài vật liệu nổ còn sót lại sau chiến tranh. Thì sau một hôm làm nhiệm vụ thì cô ấy không may đã xảy ra tai nạn và bị chết.
My aunt and many others volunteered to search and destroy the unexplosive ordnance. Right after the war, in one of her tasks, she was killed.
Cách đây 10 năm, khi tôi vừa mới bước vào tổ chức MAC, thì suy nghĩ của tôi chỉ đơn giản rằng tôi cần một công việc để kiếm sống, nuôi sống bản thân và nuôi đứa con nhỏ 17 tháng tuổi của tôi.
10 years ago, when I first joined MAC, I simply thought that I need a job to support myself and my 17-month-old son.
Nhưng sau một thời gian tôi làm việc thì tôi nhận ra rằng đây không phải là một công việc đơn giản như tôi nghĩ là chỉ là công cụ kiếm sống, mà đó là một công việc rất cao quý và ý nghĩa. Nó đòi hỏi sự hy sinh và lòng dũng cảm.
However, after a period of time with MAC, I realized that it's not just a means of earning a living, but it's also a meaningful job which requires sacrifice and courage.
Đó là công việc mà chúng tôi góp phần đem lại sự bình yên và hạnh phúc cho quê hương của tôi.
Our job helps to bring peace and happiness to the local people where I live.
Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you. Kieu, please.
Xin kính chào tất cả các quý vị. Tôi xin tự giới thiệu. Tôi tên là Dinh Thị Kieu, là nhân viên kỹ thuật rà phá bom mìn tại dự án MAC Quảng Bình, Việt Nam. Tôi gắn bó với MAC đã 9 năm và hiện tại thì tôi đã lập gia đình và có 2 con.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dinh Thị Kieu. I am a deminer at Mines Advisory Group in Quảng Bình Province, Vietnam. I have been with MAC for 9 years. I got married and have 2 small children.
Tôi sinh ra và lớn lên tại quê hương Lệ Thủy, Quảng Bình, là nơi có cái đường ranh giới chia cắt Bắc Nam và trong thời kỳ chiến tranh.
I was born in Liaison district, Quang Binh province, where the borderline dividing the north and the south of Vietnam during the war was.
Năm tôi 16 tuổi thì tôi có chứng kiến một vụ tai nạn là hai người hàng xóm bên cạnh nhà tôi đã chết vì do bom nổ.
When I was 16 years old, I witnessed an accident happen to my two neighbors. They both were killed.
Mặc dù chiến tranh đã đi qua hơn 50 năm, nhưng vẫn còn những cái người dân vô tội phải gánh những cái hậu quả còn sót lại sau chiến tranh.
Although the war ended for almost 50 years, many innocent people still have to suffer from its consequence.
Công việc chính hàng ngày của tôi đó là ra và đào tìm các tín hiệu, các vật liệu chưa nổ, bom mìn, và mỗi khi tìm được một vật liệu chưa nổ thì tôi cũng như các đồng nghiệp của tôi cảm thấy rất vui vì chúng tôi một phần nào đó đã đóng góp vào giảm cái nguy cơ tai nạn do bom mìn gây ra.
My daily job is to find and destroy the explosive ordnance. Anytime I find an item, I feel so happy because my teams and I have to contribute to the reduction of accident caused by the remnants of the war.
Tôi xin hết và xin cảm ơn.
Thank you. In all the countries where MAG works around the world, including Vietnam, the first key step in clearing contaminated land is to work in partnership with the host country government at local and national level to coordinate and plan all activities. Once we know the priorities areas for clearance, we will deploy our community liaison teams. The MAC team goes to the areas we plan to work to hold community meetings and interview key stakeholders, including the veterans, the farmers, and women, to collect information such as the location of explosive ordnance, the accident, or other information. In addition, our community liaison team deliver recommunication. The team go into community space such as schools or community halls to deliver life-saving lessons, including how to prevent, report, and recognize the deadly items that might be in their communities. All the lessons are age and gender sensitive and often include games, stories, or presentations to ensure that the key messages are retained. All the information collected from the authorities and communities will be recorded digitally and are shared with the technical teams for the most appropriate follow-up activities. Community liaison is a very important part of our work because they collect data, they share life-saving messages with the beneficiary, and especially they help us to build the trust between MAC and the local communities. Once the dangerous areas are known, we begin clearance. MAC deploy a clearance team consisting of 13 people, one team leader, one deputy team leader, one medics, and 10 deminers to fight, remove, and destroy the unexploded ordnance for the benefit of the community. When we clear unexploded bombs, it is called battle area clearance. This is what Kieu and myself will demonstrate to you today. In Vietnam, we have 41 demining teams working across the two provinces. All members of the teams are trained on international mine action standards to ensure the safe and effective clearance. The first step of clearance of a USO is done using this tool called large loop detector. This detector can cover a large area quickly, especially in open areas like the rice field. In Vietnam, The large loop detector can pick up signals of metal the size of a cluster munition to the depth of 30 centimeters or about 1 foot. Bước 1. The large loop is operated by 2 people. They follow ropes laid out on the ground to ensure that every inch of land is covered. Bước 2. If a signal is detected, then they will place a marker down and move on. After they have covered the area with a large loop detector, another deminer will come in to investigate the marked signals. Bước 3. Now the deminer will use a more accurate handheld detector to locate the exact spot and they excavate the site. Bước 4. To excavate, the deminer will dig in front of the marker first and slowly and carefully remove the soil until the item is revealed. All the deminers have extensive trainings to enable them to identify unexploded ordnance. If the signal is scrap metal, such as fragmentation from exploded ordnance and other metal scrap, the deminer will collect the scrap in a bucket, check the area again to make sure there is no further signal, and then they move to the next marker. If they suspect it is an item of USO, the deminer will immediately stop, leave the area, and call over the team leader to identify the item. Bước 5. Here, Kieu the deminer has identified a BLU-26 cluster munition, the most common type found in Vietnam. Bước 6. Once verified, the team leader will mark the item and secure the area with sandbags. The item and any others found by her team that day are destroyed at the end of the working day. When the team are ready to conduct the demolition, the team leader will conduct a safety briefing and assign her team to their positions. The deminers will ensure that all people and animals are cleared from the area and will block the roads if necessary. Bước 7. The team leader will then set up the demolition using a firing cable and a detonation cord and explosives. The firing cable is run out to a safe distance and explosives are placed on the items. Radios are used to communicate with all the teams to ensure that the site is safe and the demolition is ready to go ahead. Don't be worried today because the explosive is just a fake one, and 100% you will be safe. Bước 8. Once everything is ready, the detonation cord is set up. The buttons on the detonator are pressed and the bomb is safely destroyed. It is customary that if we have visitors, they will have the privilege to destroy the deadly items. We are so happy to welcome in our demolition today, Ms. Heidi, Kühn, and she will help us to press the button to destroy the items. On the stage, you can see that the distance from the demolition pit to the firing point is so close. However, in reality, the distance should be at least 250 meters, about 820 feet. Depending on the size of items, or else our body will turn into pieces. Ready? Ready. 3, 2, 1.
$60 million landmines to go. Thank you.